welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Diana, the creator of Money Boss Mama, where I teach women how to become a money boss from the inside out. It is almost 2021, which means we have 12 months worth of opportunities awaiting us. So I wanted to give you guys a few tips that you can use to break free of that vicious paycheck to paycheck cycle so that you can start living life on your own terms versus just living life in a way that you have to, not really the way that you want to. So basically, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, I don't really see it as living. I feel like you're surviving. You're just in survival mode. You're not really thriving. And when you are paycheck to paycheck, this means that you are basically you're making just enough to pay for your expenses. So your expenses and your income equal each other. There's not a lot of wiggle room, which makes it really, really difficult to save money, pay off debt, to enjoy life without credit cards. And it puts you in a very vulnerable position because if something pops up and goes wrong, like that's it. It's going to put you deeper in the hole. So these are going to be a few ways that you can dig yourself out of that hole. I know that you can do it because I have done it. So let's go ahead and get into way number one. Tip number one is to set aside money that's going to act as your safety net. So basically see it as your CYA fund. And when you're paycheck to paycheck, as I recently stated, you're tight. Like money is tight. And if something unexpected pops up, that is it. You don't have much of anything to cover that expense. So it's putting you deeper and deeper into that cycle, which is how a lot of people stay in that cycle and they are not able to get themselves out. And a lot of people go back and forth over how much money you should have set aside. Honestly, I feel like just start with something. Whether it's $500 or 1 month's worth of living expenses, start with what is realistic to what your situation is right now. And then just work on building that habit. Build that consistency and that habit of sending money to a savings account and not touching it. Maybe that's you sending $20 per paycheck twice a month to a savings account. So $40 a month, and then you are slowly getting into the habit of sending money off and not needing it again. And as time progresses, those little contributions, they do add up. So you know when people say I take 10 steps forward and 5 steps back, that's often because they don't have any money set aside to help cover them should something unexpected pops up. But when you have money set aside, and whenever something unexpected pops up, you may not be able to cover it in its entirety, but you still are going to have a chunk of it covered, which allows you to be able to make up for that little bit of money and then continue on working yourself out of this cycle. Tip number two is to know what is coming in and what is going out. I cannot tell you how many times people say to me, I don't know where my money is going. If you don't know where your money is going, then it's not going to you. Why? Because you are looking for it. You have to know what is coming in and what is going out when you are stuck in the paycheck to paycheck cycle. And a lot of times, especially as I'm working with clients, they're often surprised that they are not as tight as they originally thought. It's just that their money is not going to places that is actually benefiting them. So when you have your money or your financial picture all laid out, so I'm talking about a budget here, you have everything laid out, you are able to control your expenses and maximize your income because you are putting your money to work and going to places that are actually benefiting you versus your money running off and going into the hands of other people, to be completely honest. So whenever you are listing out all of your expenses, where your money is going to, this also allows you to pinpoint what can stay, what can go, and what needs to be reduced. So you want to cut out everything that is not aligning with your goal of getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, and it's not really valuable to you. your budget should align with your values. So if you are spending an astronomical amount on something that is not lining up with your goal and with your values, then obviously it needs to go. And if your money is going someplace that is still kind of aligns with your values, but it's not really benefiting you in the long run, then you want to see how you can reduce those expenses. So this is going to be you going out to eat, anything that's non-essential, it's not necessary to you living a healthy, safe life. Those things need to be attacked first, because you are going to have to free up your money. You are going to have to get your income ahead of your expenses in order for you to use that gap between the two to get yourself out of this vicious cycle. Tip number 3, which is my most favorite tip ever, is to leverage any and all extra money. In all of my videos, I tend to say this because this was the number one way I was able to pay off debt. And this was also the number one way I was able to get myself out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. So I am talking about tax refunds, any stimulus checks, bonuses or incentives, court settlements, things like that come to you in a lump sum of money. You want to ask yourself, how can I use this money to put myself, my future self, in a winning position? When any extra money touches your account, you've got to see it as the way out, because basically it is. This may be one of your only chances to really break the paycheck to paycheck cycle. So you want to make sure you are using the money in a way that's going to set your future self up for success. You want to use this money that's going to benefit you in the long run versus satisfying your current wants. One thing that I did, I asked myself, what was it that made life hard for me financially in the past? And then whatever it was that made life hard for me, I would use my extra money as a way, as a proactive way to kind of minimize the effects should that thing ever happen again. So maybe, a specific debt balance was sucking up a lot of your income, or is sucking up a lot of your income. So you may see your tax refund as a way to pay down that debt balance so that you can free up more of your money to apply to other financial obligations. Or maybe there was a specific pop-up expense that kept happening, like car repairs. You may want to set aside a sinking fund specifically for auto repairs, so that should your car ever need repairs again, it's not taking such a huge financial hit on you. And I recently did a whole video on how you can use tax refunds or any extra money to level up in 2021. I'm going to leave it somewhere here on the screen because I highly recommend that you check it out. It's some really great tips in that video. The next quick tip that I have for breaking free of the paycheck to paycheck cycle is to downsize. And this is very difficult for a lot of people. I know it was difficult for me because pride is involved. And whenever you are having to sacrifice something, your pride takes a huge hit. And downsizing is something that is not a sacrifice that happens behind closed doors. People see that sacrifice. So it's a public sacrifice, and that can take a huge toll on your self-confidence. But honestly, downsizing is one of the most powerful ways to break free of this cycle. You've got to put your pride to the side when it comes to you getting out of this cycle, and you have to be really serious and committed to the journey, because it's going to take you making a lot of sacrifices, and downsizing may be one of them. I am talking about, you taking a look at those higher expenses, the expenses that take up the most of your budget, like housing, so maybe like your rent or your car. Taking a look at those expenses that cost you the most and asking yourself what you could do to get those down. That may include you moving to a cheaper place. That may include you giving up your luxury car and getting a beater for a little while. But when you take a look and you attack the big fish, it's going to reap the most benefits versus you trying to go after these little small expenses to keep yourself from having to sacrifice so much. And I will give you an example of how powerful downsizing is. So whenever I fell pregnant with my son, I had just gotten to a new duplex with new amenities. I was feeling myself. It was the nicest place that I had ever rented. But I knew when I got pregnant, I was going to have to move because I was not going to be able to afford the rent and a whole newborn, because I just got my daughter out of daycare. So I had freed up extra money, and now I was cooking another child that was going to need to be in daycare. I did not want to lower my debt payments. I was seriously committed to my debt-free journey. So I took a look through my budget and focused on those big expenses, the largest expenses, which was obviously rent. And so I knew that I was going to have to let the duplex go. So I moved after I had my son and my lease was up. I moved to a little cheap townhouse that had roaches in it. I had roommates that were roaches, but that move saved me nearly $200 because the rent was cheaper and it included free water. The neighborhood wasn't too bad. It was across the street from a police department, so I did feel kind of safe moving my kids there. But my pride did take a huge beating, and I remember I never invited anyone over because I was so embarrassed. But still, at the end of the day, I stayed committed to my debt-free journey, and I was able to keep my debt payments the same. So I signed a year's lease, and because I made that decision to downgrade, I was able to pay off the rest of my auto loan and my last credit card before my lease was up. And when my lease was up, I packed me and my kids out of that roach-infested apartment, and I was able to move into the duplex that I am in right now. Am I recording? I'm so proud of you. Another way to break free of the paycheck to paycheck cycle is to monetize your skills. And I know there's someone watching that is sleeping on their skills and not even realizing that they can make money using their talents and their gifts. And when you are living paycheck to paycheck, obviously you are going to have to get your income over your expenses, because right now your income and your expenses basically equal each other, which means that you don't have a lot of flexibility. And whenever you have cut and reduced everything that you can, but you still really don't have as much as you would like to make the type of impact that you would like on this journey, then you're going to have to open up another source of income. And I know before you turn up your nose that you may be busy, you already have a lot going on, but this does not have to be you punching another clock. This could be you doing something inconsistently, just whenever you need extra money, and from the comfort of your own home. It is 2020. There are a lot of online jobs right now, and you don't have to go out and go physically into a building in order to make extra money. There are so many ways that you can make money online. There are people that are making money online from things that you wouldn't even think they would be able to monetize. So one way that I did this, because when you are side hustling, you can get burnt out very easily. I will say that. So if you just take on a side hustle that seems easy enough and the pay is good enough, you may burn out very quickly, because in your mind, you're going to know that you don't absolutely need this job. This is not your main job. And so you're probably going to be more prone to quit. So what I did when I realized that the money that I was making at my day job just was not going to cut it for my debt-free journey, I made a list of 3 of my skills. So I wrote down 3 of my skills on a list, and out to the side of each skill, I wrote down how I could monetize each one. Because I chose that side hustle that lit me up the most, I stuck with that side hustle for about 3 years, making up to $400 per month. That was the most I ever made. But on average, I was making about $250 with the amount of assignments I picked up in my spare time. And now I will say that your brain is going to be giving you all types of excuses as to why you can't work your side hustle or why you should quit. Be sure that you are extremely committed to this journey before you start side hustling, so you don't fall victim to your excuses. Make time, because you're going to have time if you make time. And honestly, when you apply that extra money, you are disciplined, and you discipline yourself to apply all of that extra money to you getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, which is if that's applying money to your savings account or getting your debt paid off, whatever that means to you, you are going to see such amazing growth on this journey, and it's going to help you reach that freedom a lot faster if you stick with it. All right, y'all, so I don't want to make this super long. These were some quick tips to help you break free of the paycheck to paycheck cycle in 2021. So I really do hope that this was extremely helpful to you all. Leave me down below how you broke out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, or if you are still in the cycle, how you are breaking free of the cycle, and I will catch you all in the next video.